So this sent me down the road of trying to research potential alternatives to a generator.
Oh, dang it. The knob is frozen again. So even though this is a frost-free hydrant, I found that this knob freezes up when it gets really cold. Ay.
Luckily, I've got a way to fix this.
Nice and toasty.
So right here is the plumbing line where it goes to that nozzle. We'll just take our hot water bottle, put it into place just right here. So you got the hot water bottle sitting right on top of the pipe.
If I just give it about 15 minutes or so, that knob will be nice and thawed. So while I wait for that to thaw out, I'm gonna go downstairs and check on the cats. Because the weather was sub-zero again, I decided to keep them in the basement.
So our house was built in 1835 and we've got the basement to prove it. It's got a stone foundation and a dirt floor. Really old school. Hey Pablo and Lil, how's it going? Meow. What's up, buddy? Yeah, how you doing? Doing good down here.
So our house was built in 1835, and it's been one of those things where even though it was built in 1835, it hasn't been frozen in 1835. We still have, remnants of the stone foundation down here.
And then you'll even notice here, when we were doing a lot of our work on the house in 2017, we poured footers like this and put in stabilization like this in the LVL that you see right there, and did a lot of that work to really stabilize the house because there was a lot of problems with it.
The house had been expanded from 1.5 stories to 2.5 stories, and they'd never done the structural support necessary.
But like even if you look at the joist work and inner workings of our house, you can notice it's a mix of old and new. I mean, you can see this here. This is an old hand-hewn beam that was put in place, nearly 200 years ago. But then you'll see this support beam that was put in. That was something that we put in only about 2 years ago. You'll notice that we have like PEX lines running through for our heat and hot water system. We have propane tanks, we have water softeners, we have kind of all of the standard stuff you would have in a modern house. Here's the remnants of oil tanks from an ancient oil burner system that we have. We ultimately ended up replacing that with propane to fuel our flat panel radiators. And even when it comes to the electrical, we did a lot of replacement work. There used to just be all old knob and tube wiring down here, and we put in a modern system.
But of all the improvements that we've made down here, arguably the coolest has been the addition of these Tesla Powerwalls.
Look at that futuristic green glow.
So these are our backup batteries. They are the Tesla Powerwall 2s. We have 2 of them. So the origin of these guys is this. We live in an area that gets power outages a lot. We're very rural. There's lots of above ground lines. We get lots of wind, lots of ice storms, lots of possibilities for falling trees. And so the odds of us getting power outages are very high. In fact, I think, the first year or so we had the house, I think we had about 7 different outages. Some of them only last for a couple of hours, but there's been others that have lasted for days. Because of this situation, it means that we need some sort of auxiliary power beyond the power lines that we have coming in from off the street. And as I was researching the decision of what to get, the immediate thing that people usually go to is, you need to get a generator.
Generators are a great tool that can be used in a variety of ways when power is needed.
So you get a generator and you have it either fueled by propane or gasoline, and you hook it up to your house and that becomes your backup power. But the problem that I've found with generators is that they are pretty expensive just in and of themselves. They take a lot of work to install. You've got to maintain them, and there's a lot of work to do from a maintenance perspective. They're loud and noisy. We either have to hook it up to our propane system, which already fuels our heating system, or we would have to get gasoline and figure out ways to store the gasoline. None of those things are very attractive to me. So this sent me down the road of trying to research potential alternatives to a generator. And one of the first things that I came up with was the Tesla Powerwall. Yeah, so I know Tesla is this sort of flashy company, and I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Elon Musk.
He's what every billionaire aspires to be.
That's what a supervillain does. Yeah.
Elongated muskrat.
But when it comes down to it, the Tesla Powerwall is a pretty cool product. So the principle that we're using with these Tesla Powerwalls is not that different than if you had like one of these like backup power banks and you'd like hook it up to your cell phone to charge it. You know, boom. See? All right, now it's charging. It's essentially the same principle. These things are just giant storage batteries, and if you lose power, your house is going to draw on these things to keep everything running. Now, a common myth that is out there is that you need to have solar panels to actually work with the Tesla Powerwall. That is completely untrue. In fact, you don't need that at all. You can just draw down energy from the power grid, so get it from your electric company, fill these guys up, keep them stored, keep them already charged, and then when your house loses power, they kick in automatically, and then that becomes what runs things. And the nice thing is, too, you can actually control when these things will draw power. And so if your power company has peak metering, where they're charging more money during certain times of day, like peak usage periods, you can draw at the opposite of those times, so you can get the cheapest possible price per kilowatt for these things. The other cool thing with the Tesla Powerwall is we do intend to get solar power in the near future, and when we do, we can use these as batteries for that as well. These things will last for us based on our household energy consumption at sort of a normal rate. With the 2 batteries, we can actually get about 9 days worth of usage out of it. That number is going to depend a lot for you guys on how you use your energy at your house. Obviously, if we're going to be trying to use our electric dryer to dry clothes for 8 hours a day, that's not going to last nearly as long. But if you're thoughtful and you're conservative, you can get a pretty good long stretch of things. But now, as we've seen, you could get natural disasters that could knock you out for much longer than 2 weeks.
And now it'll be months before most of the island has electricity again.
I know that some folks out there who have a strong preparedness mindset would say I'm crazy, but I'm one of those people who likes to play the odds a little bit. I think that it's really important when you're thinking about preparedness to balance both the probability of something happening with the expense that it takes to mitigate it, and let those two things drive some of your decision making, and just don't look from one side of that or the other. You gotta keep things in balance. They are quiet. The maintenance is like nothing. They are easy to use. I don't need an additional fuel source or system. I don't need to house it outside our house and maintain that and keep snow off of that. I just leave it down here in the basement and check on it maybe every couple of weeks. So from that standpoint, these things are awesome. In terms of the drawbacks, let's talk about the drawbacks. I guess number one, they have a lifespan. So you're not going to get more than a decade out of these things. And as they get older and older, they get less and less effective. The other major drawback that exists with the Tesla Powerwall is cost. I believe these things retail for about $6,000 a piece. You're probably going to spend about another $1,000 or so to get them installed. We actually didn't spend that much money though, because our power company, Green Mountain Power here in Vermont, had a program running where they were trying to get homeowners to buy these things because they wanted to try to level out the energy consumption in the region a little bit. So it cost about $3,000 to get both of them put in. When you think about that compared to the price of a generator, they actually ended up being about the same cost. So if you're out there researching whether or not to get a generator or look for some other alternative, I would strongly encourage you to think about the Tesla Powerwall. It's been great for us so far. We've had it for about 9 months, and it's worked really well. All right, I've got to go outside and get water to our ducks. They are probably thirsty. They've been looking at a block of ice probably for the last 9 hours, and they want their morning water. If you guys have questions or comments about the Tesla Powerwall or Powerwalls versus generators or other alternatives to generators, be sure to leave them down below in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. And I will see you next time here at Goldshaw Farm, where we're trying to build an innovative farm here in Vermont. Thanks.